Here at KSMO, it's time for our spotlight on the Salem Memorial District Hospital, and we have two newbies with us. We got the interim CEO, Mr. Bill May, with us, and Doug Hoban, right? Okay, so Doug is with us today, and very good. I'm glad to have both of those gentlemen with us. And first off, welcome to KSMO Radio. I'm going to get this a little closer to you, Doug.
All righty.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Well, we're always interested in keeping up to date on what's going on at our hospital. We know there's a lot of different changes going on, Bill and Doug, and you guys are no strangers to all this. We've had some issues and trying to work through them one at a time, but it doesn't stop the hospital from operating. It's still going strong.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Board of Directors meeting from last Tuesday, and we'll talk a little bit about the numbers. And Doug, I guess that's kind of your specialty here.
That is my area of knowledge.
Your expertise. And so again, we talk a little bit about when we have done these interviews in the past. We just kind of talk a little summary about what's going on in a month, admissions and things of that nature.
Sure.
And so let's just kind of touch on that. Basically what you do at the board meeting. How's that?
Not a problem at all.
Okay.
Just in review, our admissions for the month of January were 85. Again, that was up from December when we kind of had a pretty big drop off in all of our volumes. Those 85 admissions actually equated to 266 patient days, of which 192 were on the med-surg unit. We did have 38 days in our swing bed program, and those patients that were admitted under the observation status, which is an hourly status, equated to about 36 days. Our overall occupancy of our acute unit was 34.3%, and we actually averaged 8.6 patients a day on our inpatient unit, and that was up from 6.6 back in December. Some of our outpatient numbers, outpatient registrations did exceed the December numbers pretty significantly, 1,527 compared to 1,390 back in December. The largest service areas that we did see, obviously with COVID still looming, increase in the cardiopulmonary ventilation type services, 1,950 compared to 1,332. Our laboratory, and again, I don't think it's any secret, we've had some issues with our lab. Sure. We're not back to where we were pre-problems, but we did have 6,310 laboratory tests performed in January, and that is up from 4,853 in December. Radiology procedures was up slightly, 1,230 compared to 1,071 back in December. Surgical procedures were consistent with December. Actually had 26 surgical procedures in the month compared to 25 in December.
And a lot of times when we start looking at some of these numbers and we start talking about some numbers fluctuating a little bit, I have to remember, obviously, you have a couple holidays in January. That first weekend, usually pretty much nothing happens as far as surgical cases are concerned. But also the weather situation. A lot of times, especially when you come to home health visits.
Right.
We all know what's happened in the last couple 10 days. Getting around has been pretty much nil, especially out in let's put out the county areas beyond the main routes.
Exactly.
It's pretty difficult. Even parking lots in some areas have been virtually impossible until, I guess, really just the other weekend. They finally were able to get some of that thick ice off.
Right.
Or it can get pretty nasty. So some of those numbers obviously are affected by weather conditions as well as holidays.
Right. So. And your point's very valid. Home health did see a downturn from December into January, like you said, weather-related and just holiday-related. Okay. Our ED, the emergency room, actually had 781 visits in the month, and that was up from 628 in December. Obviously, we don't keep all of the residents or all the patients at our facility. We do have to transfer some. We did transfer 21 patients in the month of January, but that's pretty significantly down from December when we transferred 54. Right. We did admit either into the acute or the observation unit 73 patients in the month of January. That is up from 44 back in December. Mm-hmm. And obviously our ambulance, because of weather and things, was extremely busy. We did have 237 ambulance runs in the month, and that's up from 211 from the previous month.
But as we report, a lot of times those ambulances have to get out in those rural areas, and people don't have to realize sometimes that takes a little extra time because they have to be extremely cautious in getting those destinations because you're talking about somebody's life at stake. First off, you need them to get there, and the next thing is you need them to get back to the hospital.
Exactly.
So very, very important there. And one of the things that we talk about, people leaving against medical advice, and it's unfortunate. That seems to be on the rise a tad bit. They get in there, they get diagnosed, and they say, okay, this is what we really need to do, and for one reason or another, and I'm pointing any fingers at anybody, but they may leave against medical advice.
Right.
And so.
Your point's valid. In January, we did have 37 AMAs in the month, and that is up from about 22 in the prior month.
73 admissions is quite a few, So when I see that coming in the emergency department, people are sick.
Yeah.
They need attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we're not letting them go if they need some kind of attention, provided that they want to get the proper treatment.
Sure.
All right, very good. And ambulance runs have stayed pretty much the same as they have. I mean, it's always amazing the dry runs, and then I've been out there and I've seen dry runs when you get a somewhat of severe accident. Let people know the ambulance is sent. They get halfway there, they may get called and say, "Sorry, we don't need you. Nobody's hurt." And they got to turn around, but doesn't mean they didn't get prepared in the hospital, get on their way, get started.
They're there when we need them.
Yeah, but they're there. It's always good to have them. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the numbers, Doug, and the operating statements. Again, a loss for the month, but not as bad as we have had. And, of course, some tax dollars coming in there to help that out.
Absolutely. Overall, the gross revenue for the month was about $5.3 million, $5,282,000. That was up significantly from December when we only had less than $4.4 million.
Mm-hmm.
We do have other revenue coming in from various sources, including 340B pharmaceuticals, our cafeteria, medical records, various things. We did have $186,000 in the month of January, and that's up from about $175,000 previous month. Revenue deductions, however, continue to plague us. It's no secret that the revenue cycle has had some issues here at SMDH.
Right.
We did bring that back in-house as of January. We continue to work on refining that process. Now with the support of RHG, Rural Health Group, they have some experts that are helping us navigate those waters. And I'm happy to report we did hire a new revenue cycle director who started with us yesterday.
Fantastic.
Her name is Jennifer Smith. She's a Southwest Missouri girl, so to speak. Her permanent residence was Logan Rogersville.
Okay.
However, she has done a lot of interim work across the country, I think most recently out in Colorado. But she's looking forward to getting back to Southwest Missouri, and she really is interested in rebuilding our entire revenue cycle.
And that's critical. It just has to get done. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we come to accounts receivable and stuff.
So as you stated, the expenses unfortunately did go up from December. We did have $2,743,000. That was up from about $2,004,000 from the previous month. But on a positive note, as you said, the tax levies money did start coming in. We had a small amount trickle in December at the beginning of the tax year, but we did receive about $390,000 in the month of January. So unfortunately, we did have an overall loss for the month, but not nearly where we were in December.
Right. And one of the things that drives that right now, and I continue to see it, and this doesn't change, is the supply cost. Supply cost just keeps escalating, and even getting the supplies you need is very difficult at times.
The freight associated with it,
You don't
the
even
drugs and
go.
pharmaceuticals.
You get the surtax now, right? We're back to the surtaxes
Yeah.
again with the freight cost, and those things are just they're needed. You have to get them, and there's no way around that. You just have to have it. That has to get passed on.
Well, and I think it's important to point out that we have a vice president of supply chain, and he actually will be in town next week and be here probably 3 days next week, and he's going to attack that issue of supply because typically you've got a GPO that you use for all hospitals, and he's already looked at that, and he's already identified about $560,000 of savings in just his brief overview from afar. But he'll be in town next week, and he's actually going to meet with all the managers that are affected, and we hope to see even further savings for that.
A lot of times, and I don't know if this is the case with Salem Hospital, you get so used to the suppliers you've used for so many years that you don't shop it as often as you should, and you might be able to find a better price. Now, I'm not saying that did or didn't happen, but in this day and age, you virtually have to do that to see what's available out there, because some of the old supply chains, they're not getting the supplies they can. Somebody else might be able to. Maybe instead of being the East Coast, from the West Coast, they may be able to get those supplies. So
No, you're exactly right.
have to keep that open. And the deductions from revenue they're very difficult to overcome. Those
Right.
contracts are hard.
Well, in addition to that, you have no pre-certification before the services are being rendered. So there's a lot of upfront legwork that needs to happen, that we are starting to build that team internally now to address those types of issues, along with untimely filing issues, medical necessity issues. So again, ensuring that the patients have the procedure pre-certified is key, not only for the patients, so there's no additional cost to them,
And no
but to ensure
surprise down the road, yeah.
exactly, and to ensure the facility gets paid for the services provided.
Yeah, a lot of times, obviously, I know I was entered in the hospital. I had insurance, but when I had COVID and things of that nature, and you just don't really know. You think, oh, my insurance will cover that. Well, you have a big deductible, and
That's
you really
exactly
need
right.
to know. And of course, I think my total bill is, I think, $5,900 some odd dollars. My deductible is $6,000. So
Right.
yes, but even amongst that, though, there are some services through your insurance company that are reduced because of the contracts that they have with hospitals. So
Exactly.
people need to know that. So that saved me quite a bit of money, but still, $5,979 or whatever it was, still came out of my pocket to pay for my stay. Was I surprised? No, I knew that was there, and I knew it was a high deductible. But basically, in the age we're in with insurance, nobody can afford a $500
I think
deductible
the-
anymore. There's no way.
I think the key thing that you said is your insurance company. And I think our patients have to understand that it's their insurance company that is telling us what the out-of-pockets are and what your deductibles are. And again, the folks that work in various non-healthcare industries have always assumed that I've got insurance. And yes, you do have insurance, but just like you stated, it's a high deductible plan. So until you meet your individual annual deductibles, that's coming out of the patient's pocket.
Exactly. So, wasn't a surprise, but it's still, you get that bill.
Shell shock.
Your eyes
But
get
one of the
big.
nice things that Salem Hospital has always offered is a discount program. That if you pay up front within 30 days, they offer you a discount program. I don't know if that will continue, but
Yeah.
that is an option you don't get in many hospitals. They don't offer that.
And we do offer financial assistance, and again, to ensure that we can provide any legal authorities with why we adjust a bill, we have to have personal information from the patients, whether it's W-2 banking information, those types of things to support an adjustment.
There is an adjustable scale based upon their income levels.
That's correct.
So, very good. All right, well, let's. I know you guys are going to hurry, so we're going to fly through this kind of a little quick. Balanced sheet, obviously, with the amount of dollars going out, we're going to talk about the cash flow statement in just a second. But the more cash has been going out in the last few months and coming in, and so that affects your assets, which have gotten a little bit. Well, when you look at the balance sheet compared to where it was a year ago, it gets a little bit hairy, doesn't it?
Right, exactly, and I think the elephant in the room is the cash or the current assets, cash balances. At the end of January, and again, this is a snapshot in time, this was as of January 31st, the facility only had about $1.5 million in cash and cash CD-related issues. I'm happy to report, and I think if you go back and check your notes from prior board meetings, there were some funds that were expected. There was governmental funds that were released back in November 23rd to be specific, called the American Relief Plan.
Right.
Most other hospitals across the country got their money either then or shortly thereafter.
Missouri did not release that money.
Right.
Yeah.
We had a delay. We had some issues with our transition of clearinghouses, which probably further caused additional delays. In addition to that, the Medicare cost report that we talked about, that was submitted back in November after review by the board with BKD, our auditing firm. We anticipated a very significant receivable or cash coming in the door.
Sure.
We really anticipated, based on prior years, that money would have come in early to mid-January. Unfortunately, neither of those arrived prior to January 31st.
Right.
Since that time, the facility has received both of those funding, and in addition to that, Phase 4 funding of the initial CARES Act, and again, even additional money. So
Was that the 1.4 mil?
that was 1.2 million.
1.2. Okay.
The 1.3 million was the cost report settlement. However, as we talked and as you pointed out, the facility did receive advance payments from the Medicare system back in April of 20. That again, the government is taking back a portion of all payments. So of the 1.3 million that was anticipated, we actually got about 1,057,000 of that. 263,000 actually went back to the recoupment fund that we had gotten.
Cash flow statement will look a lot different next month.
Yeah, as of this morning, Bill, you want to give the number?
I think about 3.4 million
Yeah.
this morning. So yeah,
Very good.
That actually equates to about 55 days.
Yeah, and that's where we need to be back up in
Right.
that range. Very good, very good. But you know, it always is hard to watch the cash go out. But when you're waiting, like you say, it's a waiting game. It gets very strenuous
Yeah.
when you're sitting there watching.
That's why I've got gray hair
and
and shrinking, receding.
That's from just putting your hand back there. Like, I can't believe this is happening again. Waiting on the government.
Slap
But
yourself on the forehead.
we all kind of wait on the government. But as you mentioned, days cash on hand was 19 days.
Yeah.
As of that snapshot on January 31st, and that
Correct.
is a little bit scary for any hospital, critical access or not.
Right.
So let's move to accounts receivable, Doug, and then we'll move on and let Bill do a little talking since you kind of dominated the conversation.
Yeah.
It's okay.
that's the
though,
reason I brought him. He's good at that.
he is good. But people have to understand with accounts receivable, and this is the driving force, and this is what we're talking about, the billing cycles. There is a lot of accounts receivable that sit out there right now for Salem Hospital. And I'm looking right now, as of that January 31st date, $14 million outstanding. And, that's a lot of money to sit out there. And you're not going to get all that.
Right, and again, it's a gross number.
Right.
The net is about $4.4 million of collectible.
But it doesn't
revenue.
people sit there and go, what do you mean 4.4? But that's by the time you get done, this is what should go out. But by the time you get done with your deductions from revenue and everything else, insurances and all the contracts that have been made, you don't see that $14 million.
No.
You see X amount of dollars that come back out of it, and usually it's about 35%, isn't it?
We
35,
hope
38.
it to be 35.
It's a little bit higher than
Yeah,
that.
well, I think on the norm it's about 35%. I mean, you've been in the hospital business a long time, Bill, and I was told a long time ago about 32 to 35% is kind of the norm that you get back.
Well, I think you also have to realize that we have different billing systems currently at SMDH.
Sure.
We have the CPSI system, which is the hospital billing system. We have Brightree, which is the home health component,
Right.
and Allscripts, which does clinic. One of the recommendations, I think, long term is to kind of get all those on the same platform. We had started inroads with one company. We may be looking to utilize CPSI, the system that's been in place for years, to consolidate at least two of those three.
That's right.
Yeah. So Cerner we'll get to the Cerner conversion here in just a minute. All right, very good. But as far as days in accounts receivable, you're looking at 81. That's 2.5 months for people who don't really understand.
Right.
2.5 months is a long time to wait for money when you are having to put that money out all the time trying to get supplies and then the increased cost in supplies. Plus, you got to keep paying everybody.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
That doesn't stop. All right, very good. Real quickly, the staffing by acuity, it's always given by the chief nursing officer, and Ashley Sullins does a great job in keeping people. It's fun. It's a fun graph to look at because you can see just how active it can be in the hospital from one day to the next. Again, all of a sudden you have this one day in the middle of the month, hardly anything happening, and 3 days later, jam-packed. And Bill, that's the business of a hospital, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. Yeah, we're looking at that right now. We have been staffing by acuity. We're probably going to move more to a census level
Okay.
And we'll still look at acuity, but not actually staff every day with acuity.
Okay.
And I think we'll be able to flex our staff a little bit better by doing that.
Because I think she says right now about 1.5, 3 nurses per day. I think I had a note here that was kind of where she is right now. Right now.
That's correct.
Yeah. All right. So the hospital auxiliary meetings have been postponed indefinitely till everything can get back to normal. A hospital foundation golf tournament's on, right?
Yes, it is. I was told about that, and I actually went out by the golf course this weekend. There was a little snow out there.
I was going to say, you got out there with your spikes, you didn't get out. You're going to sink, man.
But we are planning that. It's a big event, as I understand it, and we're excited to sponsor that again this year.
All right, so very, very good. So we have a number of different things going that will be going on. We just have to get back. We got to get everything corrected before we get back into the swing of normalcy, even at our hospital. Let's talk about SMDH family medicine. We are going into kind of our marketing area, which we really need to be working on because family medicine is a key ingredient to our Salem Hospital, not only to keep people healthy, but also to diagnose them to where they can be admitted quickly into the hospital and get treatment as quickly as possible. And you have a new MD on staff in Dr. Tiffany Bland.
Yes. Dr. Bland seems to be acclimating very well, and I think her volume has picked up. I think she's seeing about 15 a day right now, which is pretty good for a new doc.
Mm-hmm.
And as I think you know, we've lost a number of providers over the last month or so here.
Sure.
And I've been interviewing over the past month. I've been interviewing since I've been here a number of mid-levels and nurse practitioners, and we're ready to make an offer to one here just this week, actually. So we hope to bring 2 additional providers on very quickly.
Very good. Dr. Tiffany Bland, for those who don't remember, she is originally from Bunker. She went through the hospital program to where she got her degree and signed on to serve. And the hospital has another one of those, and Brady Floyd, who will be, I believe, next year?
25, I believe.
25, okay. All right, so very good. He's doing his residency right now. I do know
That's
that.
correct.
So,
Yes.
so again, it's good to have those homegrown products
You bet.
coming on.
We'd love to have more of those because they're a natural draw. They want to be here, they want to live here, they want to raise their children here, and if we can keep them in the fold, it certainly helps.
Very, very good. So there's looking at community billboards. I think that you talked about a little bit about it at the meeting, didn't you?
Yes, we did. As I understand it, we have 4 billboards right now, and we're in the process of redoing those. I don't think they've been redone in a while. So we're looking at that, and my goal is to get our employees' pictures up there, our physician pictures up there, that type of thing, so they kind of pop off the billboard as you drive by. That's our hope, to have that done here in the next probably 45 to 60 days.
All right, very good. The Cerner conversion, we're going to put that on hold for right now, correct?
That's right. Yeah, we just got so much going on. CERN is a good program, but it's a very costly program, and I think with the volume at the hospital and the limited resources we have right now, the board's agreed to put that on hold for a while.
Okay, now, it had some issues with Cerner back last year when everything was supposed to happen, and there was some problems there. Of course, they just got bought out.
Right.
And I think that added to that strain last year as well.
That's good.
All right, the Community Hospital Corporation. You want to explain that a little?
Yeah, it was a group that was brought in last year, I think maybe October-ish, in that neighborhood.
Late September.
That spent some time doing an evaluation of the hospital and kind of looking from the top to the bottom on opportunities for improvement. And they did their overview. They sent a report, a draft report to the
Right.
board, which the board's received. We have not seen the final report at this point. Again, we spoke about it at the board meeting, and with RHG being on board right now, there is some duplication there. So
Okay.
we've actually taken their report, and we've tried to take some of the highlights out of that and help us work through some of the things.
Very good. Now, the Delta Regional Community Health System Development was announced at the January meeting that that hospital will be involved in that. Is that still going to be a forthgoing project?
It is, yes. It's a very intense 3-year program, and it's going to take a lot of boots on the ground to get that going. But all the hospitals that we've spoken to that have had that program in place previous have spoken very highly about it. So I believe we started our kickoff maybe even next week with our first calls.
Actually,
good.
Stroutwater, who does a lot of financial analysis, is partnering with them. They've requested quite a few statistical information and things, and we have our kickoff meetings, as Bill said, next week.
Great, fantastic. Well, that's That's good positive. I like positive news. That's
You
good
bet.
positive
Absolutely.
news. All right, here's other good positive news. The COVID-19 update. We're seeing less and less and less and less and less.
We are.
And that's the good thing. Positivity rate is down. As of 2/16, there were 50 current active cases. I think it's down to 12 or something of that nature, I believe. And
I
we
think the
still
numbers
are
that were reported this morning were about 10 new cases out of about 120. So our positivity rate was around 10.6, I believe.
Yeah, it's just getting better all the time. So that's the neat thing. Still, a vaccination rate in Dent County has not changed too much. There have been people getting vaccinated, but I think now it'll make it a little bit harder since they see the variances starting to dwindle a little bit. But
Correct.
still, we'll say 33% pretty well kind of covers Dent County. All right, very good. All right, now for the hospital employees, and we want to remind everybody, hospital is a major employer here in Dent County. And about 90% of the hospital employees are fully vaccinated or they have an exemption, correct?
That's correct. Yes. Probably even a little higher than that now. I think we've only got one employee that is not fully vaccinated or not vaccinated, and it actually is off right now.
Okay, so they're kind of on leave.
That's correct.
Okay, so very good. So that continues to get better all the time. We always like to see that. And of course, many people who got a lab test got a letter in the mail.
Yes.
You might want to explain that letter, Bill, if you would, please.
Yeah, Rural Hospital Group was not here when that all took place, of course,
Right.
and we kind of walked in that first day, and I saw everybody scrambling around with a bunch of letters trying to get them out the door.
Yeah,
And,
surprise.
yeah, a little surprised. But basically, it's a letter that CLIA, the accrediting body for the lab, asked us to, demanded that we send out to a number of patients. I think we maybe sent out in the neighborhood of 10,000 letters, and we received a lot of calls from patients wanting to know what that letter was about. We've explained that to them. They seem to understand that it was a glitch in the quality control, if you will, of
Right.
some instrumentation. And at this point, we're expecting our consultant back next week, and we have our fingers crossed that we're making good progress. And hopefully, we'll have another CLIA visit pretty quick, and we'll get a thumbs up, and everything will be ready to go.
Be nice to have it back in March. That may not happen, but April, more likely.
Probably, yes.
All right, so
Correct.
very, very good. So, but again, one of the issues there is equipment, trying to get equipment in.
Right. Yeah.
Good luck on getting some of that equipment in. You know, we've been waiting on an FM translator. We did that for 3 months, waiting on a chip, just
Yeah.
for a chip.
Sure.
And then the FM audio processor. Well, we got the translator in, we still didn't get the processor. See, it's amazing how long you wait and wait and wait. and wait.
Exactly.
But-
Well, and one of the interesting things about the lab is that one of the pieces of equipment we need to get back online, we can't get supplies for.
Yeah.
So we went back to the same company, and we basically were able to put together a deal with them to save about $300,000 over a period of time with a new same piece of equipment, but
Okay.
new, and we don't have to pay any of those service contracts that first year. So
Sure.
the saving, and of course, all the supplies will come with that, so we don't have to wait around, because that would hold up the inspection as well.
Yeah, we want to get that done as quickly as possible.
Absolutely.
Get that moving forward. And the staff had to be re-educated, correct? They had to go through a
Yes.
training process. Is that finished now?
That is finished, yes. Our pathologist put together a program. All our nurses and lab people have gone through that, and I think that's been approved by the CLIA folks.
Okay. So, in basically new business, we had to change the signatories. Obviously, that has to be done on the bank accounts and for your reports that have to be submitted so that they got that all done. So that was pretty much finished, and really that's about it.
Well, I might just talk.
Sure,
if we got-
absolutely.
Got
We
a
got-
moment, a little bit
We got as
about.
long as you want, Bill.
Well, we won't keep you long.
Well, we've done this for an hour and a half before,
Okay,
so
I
you know,
understand.
if it's needed, it has to get
Well,
out there. We want
you-
people to hear about it.
I just thought I'd maybe bring the listeners up to kind of to date on where we've been. We've been here almost a month now, Rural Hospital Group out of Kansas City, and they asked me to come in and take a look and kind of find a way to turn the hospital around and get it back on its feet. And we've spent many hours over the past 4 weeks looking at every aspect of the hospital. And what we try to look at, there's only a couple ways you can run a hospital. You've got to either grow the revenue, which takes a little bit of time, or you can decrease expenses. So we're doing both of those kind of simultaneously. I mean, we need additional specialists at the hospital, and we're talking to some folks out of Texas County and out of Rolla, trying to get some of the specialists here. We're not doing an awful lot of surgery. but we're trying to get a general surgeon who will come in and do some elective surgery for us.
Sure.
Maybe a GYN doc that would come in and do some elective surgery. So we're working through that. Some of the things that that happened last week, as you said earlier, we have an awful lot of employees in the hospital, and that grows over time, and sometimes they get a little bit out of control. So we literally went department by department, and we made a reduction, what they call a reduction in force of about 14 people last week. And that's always that's one of the most difficult things we do when we come in. And the savings with the reduction and the people who are leaving or who have submitted their resignation over the past month, the savings for that is about $2.1 million. And then the benefits.
That's an
on top,
annual savings.
Yes, sir. And then the benefit savings is another $500,000, so about $2.6 million. And the board authorized us to do a couple of other things. Our 401k, that we have a match, the hospital matches the employee's 401k at 4%. Right. We're going to put that on hold for 3 months. And after 3 months, we'll reevaluate that. That's about $100,000. It's a smaller savings, but it's about $100,000 worth of savings over 3 months. Right now, we're self-insured for short-term disability,
right?
And that's kind of unusual. Hospitals typically don't do that. We're going to get a broker involved with that. That's about $100,000 worth of savings as well. So those are some of the things that we're working on right now. It's one of the things that critical access hospitals should be doing, and we've kind of put this on hiatus, I'm not sure why, but it's a swing bed program. Mm-hmm. And it's a great program, and it was built specifically for critical access. Sure. When we came in a month ago, I asked how many swing bed patients we had. We had none in the hospital at that point. Long story short, over the past 4 weeks, I've worked with a number of people to start that program back up again. This morning, I think we have 3, soon to be 4, over just the past 3 days. That's about $1 million in revenue that we were leaving on the table, because that program pays us between $1,400 and $1,600 a day. And the average length of stay for a patient is probably 12 to 20 days in that program. And again, it's a rehab program. We give them PTs, some IVs, that type of thing. And it's a wonderful program. That way the patients don't have to go to a nursing home or go back to home with home health. We can kind of work with them while they're still in the hospital. We just change the status of that admission, if you will, from acute to swing bed. So sure. that's a big pickup. And as Doug has worked over the past month with us on what we call our unbilled report. It's a report we get every week. It talks about how many accounts are unbilled. And our goal for our company is about 6 days. We'd rather not be any higher than 6. When we came in, it was about, I believe, 13 and a half days. And we're down to 8.5 now, maybe a little bit lower than that. So we're making good progress. And as Doug said, with the revenue cycle specialist being on board starting yesterday, I think that will even further come down. And again, that's a significant amount of money, probably $200,000 or $300,000 for the savings.
Sure.
There. So.
And if you can turn that time period over of collection, you don't want 81 days. You know,
right.
and normally I know in radio somewhere between 33 and 45 because you have agencies. It's going to be the same thing for hospitals. You're going to bill it. It has to go through somebody's hands. You bill at the end of the month. They're going to get it. They look at the end of the month, and by that time they give it to somebody else. So you're normally going to be probably better than 45 days. That would be optimistic.
Yeah, 45 is our goal.
Yeah, closer to 50,
goal.
55 is realistic. Right. But even 55 days versus 81 days, that's a huge savings. That's much quicker cash turnaround. You need that money.
Yeah. Well, I think we made good progress in the first 30 days, and the employees have been very receptive to what we're talking about, and I think we're getting them engaged in what we're doing. So, all right, she's very, very pleased to be here and happy to be a part of the turnaround.
Well, we're glad to have you here and trying to make the improvements that need to be made and get us back on track. And Bill, thank you for taking the time and coming in and hauling Doug in with you. And, he's so hard to get.
It was a long haul.
He's tough, man, to get along. But I tell you, no, he's really everybody really at the hospital. It's like home when you go there. And we always hope people want to. And if you have any questions about the hospital, 729-6626, give them a call. You know, let Bill know. They'll get back to you. If he's busy, leave a message. They'll get back to you. And, of course, if you'd like to make an appointment at SMDH Family Medicine, 729-8000 is that number, and you can request if you want a new doctor. Dr. Bland is there. She'll take patients. Dr. Al, different things. You've got people there ready to assist you, and walk-ins are accepted. You don't have to make an appointment. If you feel ill and you happen to be out by the hospital, pull in, stop in. Now, of course, people with appointments will be seen first, but to be patient. You always try and say, be patient. You're a patient. You may as well be patient while you're there. Gentlemen, thanks for coming in, spending some time with us here. We always appreciate you guys and all the work that is done by our hospital. We really, really appreciate everything that they do. So with that being said, we're going to head to some AP news here, and we got some civic happenings and stuff on this first day of trout season. I'm surprised.
That's right.
You guys want to do this. We could have done it down there, throwing a line out there. And no, we're just kidding. But I want to thank our friends from the hospital coming in. And remember, we do this right after the board meeting usually. This one was put back a little bit, kind of some conflicts in there, but that's okay. And we do appreciate our friends from the hospital getting in and keeping our public informed about what's going on at the Salem Hospital. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The better mix. KSMO Salem.